For centuries, theoretical physics has struggled to explain how human beings experience the passage of time. We perceive it as a continuous flow, yet mathematically, the universe often behaves as if that flow suddenly snaps into a rigid structure. The classical linear progression model defines time as a natural, flowing river. In this view, the present is the only reality, actively moving forward and leaving the past behind, while the future remains unwritten. Opposing this is the deterministic block universe model. Under this interpretation, the past, present, and future all exist simultaneously in a massive, static structure. Every event that will ever happen has already been locked into place. This diagram compares the two dominant frameworks side by side. On the left, a moving timeline dictates that physical states change continuously. On the right, a static geometric block houses a passive observer who witnesses a pre-existing reality. Yet, neither classical model integrates universal topology with subjective conscious experience. When asked to explain the exact mechanics of human perception, both frameworks fade into error states. Modern cosmology lacks a structural ontology that accounts for the active observer. The models describe the arena, but they fail to explain the entity moving through it. To solve the paradox of simultaneous occurrence, we must discard the premise that time is a fundamental physical property of the cosmos. Time is not built into the structure of space. This is a 2026 working paper published by independent researcher Pasan Senanayake. Titled The Frame Theory of Temporal Perception, it introduces a completely novel ontology for the physical universe. The first core axiom states that time is an experiential byproduct. It does not flow organically through the cosmos. Instead, it is generated. The second axiom asserts that widely documented cognitive anomalies, such as déjà vu, are not neurological misfires in the brain, but specific, localized glitches within the physical structure of reality. Currently formatted as a foundational white paper, Senanayake's work is structured for formal interdisciplinary evaluation across the fields of physics and neurobiology. We are required to reimagine the universe as a vast, static board. Consciousness navigates this board to create the strict illusion of sequence. To understand this model, we have to build its foundational geometry from first principles. The starting premise is absolute stillness. The physical universe is completely static. Planets do not orbit. Stars do not explode. Physical events and planetary systems do not possess independent motion of any kind. This animated model shows how events are actually stored. The universe is a vast, static 3D geometric mesh composed of countless discrete, frozen frames. If we isolate the contents within a single coordinate, we find an entire planetary system, perfectly captured and completely frozen in a specific configuration. As the view rapidly expands, we see that past, present, and future events all coexist systematically. Every potential physical outcome is deterministically locked into its own coordinate. Senanayake defines this entire architectural structure as the 3D holographic mesh. Classical physics treats space as a continuous physical volume. Frame theory sections reality into highly compartmentalized individual units of existence. If every outcome physically exists at once, reality is entirely pre-rendered. The geometry of the universe is already complete. Without an external active agent to navigate this structure, the mesh remains perfectly still. Time simply does not exist organically within it. This requires us to redefine human consciousness. It is not a passive observer watching events unfold. It is the sole active locomotive force in the universe. Consciousness provides the motion. It actively traverses the moldable geometric mesh, moving from one frozen frame to the next in rapid succession. This diagram illustrates the trajectory. A luminous vector injects into the static mesh, forcing its way through the frozen coordinates. Consciousness traverses this mesh at exactly the speed of light. At the precise millisecond the vector intersects with a static frame, the collision generates a localized geometric ripple. This radiating intersection is the experiential byproduct. We interpret this structural friction as the flow of time. As consciousness slams through sequence after sequence at light speed, we perceive a smooth, continuous reality. Subjective duration is a biological illusion. It is naturally generated by pre-existing geometry interacting with relative motion. Theoretical cosmology becomes highly practical when we apply these structural mechanics to observable cognitive anomalies. Neurobiology classifies experiences like déjà vu and jamais vu as chemical misfires. The brain incorrectly flags a new experience as a memory, or a familiar experience as deeply alien. Frame theory categorically discards memory retrieval errors as the root cause. The brain is not making a mistake, it is accurately recording a structural error. These anomalies are reclassified as physical, topological events. This zoomed-in sequence shows the specific mechanical failure responsible for déjà vu. The consciousness vector misaligns and strikes the exact same spatial temporal coordinate twice in rapid succession. Mathematically, this creates an overlapping ripple. We experience this as an intense feeling that an event has already happened, because structurally it just did. Conversely, jamais vu occurs when the sequence is structurally interrupted. The vector skips over a coordinate entirely, leaving a dark, inactive void in the progression. The human brain struggles to translate these missing or doubled physical inputs. The result is a profound feeling of precognition, or a sudden, deep unfamiliarity with our surroundings. These are highly specific mechanical interruptions. They are concrete structural mechanisms, entirely separate from abstract psychological hallucinations. Frame theory successfully grounds subjective temporal anomalies. It translates human feelings into predictable topological data points, mapped directly onto a physical framework. At a macro view, we see how the entire universe operates. Hundreds of consciousness vectors traverse the static holographic mesh simultaneously, charting intersecting paths. This model successfully unites the neurobiology of subjective duration with the physics of relative motion, mapping cognitive science onto quantum topology. It effectively dismantles older, paradoxical philosophies that treat simultaneous occurrence as a passive viewing experience. By establishing consciousness as the locomotive force, Senanayake introduces the mechanics of reality engineering. The observer creates the sequence through the act of traversal. Reality is an active, collaborative engineering process. A moldable cosmic geometry provides the coordinates, and the locomotive force of consciousness provides the heat. While isolated elements bearing the nomenclature of frame theory exist in artificial intelligence and behavioral psychology, this specific cosmological synthesis has never been formally modeled. Senanayake's white paper serves as foundational documentation, designed specifically to invite rigorous academic and interdisciplinary evaluation. Researchers and theoretical physicists can access the complete parameters of the model via the Zenodo repository under DOI 1.5281, Zenodo 19489181. The universe is a finished equation. Every moment that has ever existed or will ever exist is already carved into the mesh. The physical cosmos provides the static geometric structure. Human consciousness alone provides the sequence.